and they say that 2026 is gonna be awesome. Well, that didn't stop me to reflect what was the accomplishments on my art for 2025. I just want to look back to this year and see what I did. And maybe share, maybe you got inspired as well with things that I did. There was so much going on this year. I decided for the first time what I want to say with my art, because one thing is you learning how to draw, how to paint. You have the technique to do what you want to do, but what is it that you want to say? It's like learning a language, right? When you're learning to paint, when you're learning to draw, you have the skills, you know how to do it, but what do you do with that? Are you writing a book? Are you just passing through school tests? What are you doing with the knowledge and the skill that you have right now on your life? This is not only to do with art. This could be anything in life, right? I'm diabetic for almost 15 years, if I'm not wrong. And I discovered that being diabetic is a very challenging process, specifically if you want to get rid of diabetes, which is, we know, not totally possible today. So I had to fight with this inner desire to strip out diabetes out of me. And the way that I found that I could have a better relationship with my chronic illness is to let it speak through my art. So through this year, I went through a self-discovering process to define to myself what is important for me. And with that, I was able to create new form of art that I think it's able to connect to other people. I've developed a very particular way to understand what I want to say and how I want to say. Through these years, like taking time to understand myself and what really motivates me to work crazy paintings, not crazy, but really selfish paintings about the way I feel in relationship with life, in relationship with what I want to say. And those are only frustration going out and liberating itself into painting and becoming images for me to look at it. And sometimes I see my fears and my judgments on the canvas and I see it and I say, wow, I can live with this. So I started to find the beauty in things that I was at first judging to be wrong, to be desperate, to be anxious about art, about me, about life. So it was a kind of self-discovering process where I permitted myself to make mistakes, to see what I really want to say and to be honest with me without internet, without Instagram, of course, without people telling me what to do. And this is important because when you're sticking to what people tells you to do, when you try to find your voice in others people's mouth, it's hard for you to be confident on what we're doing. So it took me a while to understand that the power in my art lies in my voice, with my experience, with things that I wanted to share, right? So through this year, I experienced, I would not say actually through this year, because this year was the year that I was ready to say what I wanted to say about diabetes and about the theme that I explore. But years ago, this was not exactly the case. And I tell you, it was a very particular way for me to find what I want to talk about. And to be honest, this could be changing in a few months from now. And that's the beauty of it. Your intentions, it changes with your art. So I was releasing myself from a weight that I was carrying that I could not understand, I could not process, regarding the how can I be happy, how can I live with a condition that prisons me into a certain type of behavior or an attitude that I have to have in life to succeed into this material planet. Well, the most funny thing is, you don't have to. The most important thing is to look at yourself and try to satisfy your own desires or own message for you. I was painting for me. I started painting a very quick painting that I don't have the video of the process, but I have the image here. And I have this painting in my wall every single day. I see it. Every time I go to my atelier, it's there, hanging on the wall. It's a black figure, humanoid figure, with its mouth open, and then it's leaking out of his mouth painting. And this is what I feel when I'm not painting. So the need to release the art in me and to create was so deep and so hurtful to hold it, that self-portrait was a revelation of my anxiety, of everything that was not working for me. So the moment that I started the next one, I knew I have to have elements from that previous painting, because that painting that I did creating me a sparkle in my heart. Even that was ugly in a way, I knew that that painting was leading me for something bigger and for something better. So I look at it. I saw, okay, I like this, I like that, I like this feeling that gives me this kind of creepiness that this painting have. What else can I do to the other ones to bring more of this identity to my paintings? One thing I knew that I want to erase was the fact of my previous paintings. Everything that I learned when I was studying was to make faces cohesive and more realistic as possible, following the Baroque studies. But what I've learned is that people don't really want to buy a painting with a rendered face unless it's their family members or someone that it's important for them. So I needed to understand, how do I make people abstract? How do I remove the faces and the forms that it's usually known by a human being when they see it? Oh yeah, that's look like my 30th grade teacher, which is terrible. We don't want that. I want the people to see it and understand the situation and the feeling that the painting is bringing. So I knew things that bug me. and things that I would like to transform. So I continued painting, identifying things that was not good in my life. For example, I had to move to a new country. I had to make choices, right? When you make choices, you divide your life between what stayed on that first path and what's new for the other path, right? You have that exactly moment in time that you have two options to follow. Choices makes what you are today, but the choices that we don't pick, they, for some reason, can be rumbling on our minds for years. That's why I paint me sinking into this ocean of choices that we didn't choose to follow. This paint represents a life that I didn't live, but I still want to see what's there. I'm still curious to know the outcome of that path. So, from the first painting, we got the blood, this mixture of alizarin crimson and raw umber create this illusion of dried blood into the first painting, and I bring it to the second painting. It is also an important part from that boy painting that I did at the same time, which shows a rubber duck floating in an ocean with the same carmazine painting. This duck, if you see the reflection on the water, it screams. It has his open mouth, like he's trying to escape or he's trying to reach for something, but no one can hear it because it's underwater. And this particular rubber duck was so well polished to the world. It is so cute in a way that you can almost say that's the perfect daddy's boy, but in reality, it is suffering because it doesn't matter where he floats. He will also be floating to the same world that we live. It's like us human beings try to find a new place to breathe. We are living in this body, in this matter, in this prison. Even we change countries, the world is the same. What it changes, it's us. So with those paintings, I was like, okay, I have maybe a blueprint of how I want to do this, how I want to talk about it. I could start talking about things that bugs me and also bugs other people. Like the moment of the choice again. Have you ever felt you hold an instant of power when you are about to make your choice, and that moment brings you anxiety and brings you doubt, and it is hard for you to process sometimes due to timeline. Sometimes we need to get along with things. Sometimes it's just such a small thing. Why would that make difference when you have to choose what to do? I know it sounds silly, but imagine you are diabetic. You have to choose what to eat, when to eat, and you have to deal with the consequences of what you're eating. Something that is basic for someone who's not diabetic, it becomes a very big problem and challenging for people with diabetes, because you're not only deciding by yourself what you need to eat to stay alive, you're considering everything else other than only the taste of the food, like how many carbs on that? Should I take insulin after this? Is that enough fibers to reduce the load of carb intake that my body will receive at once. This is a daily questioning that people with diabetes have to live. And as much as we don't want to, those calculations are mandatory if we want to stay alive, if we want to survive in this world. So, diabetes was the most important thing for me to talk about. Not because I wanted to raise a flag on how people should treat themselves with diabetes, but no one says about the choices we have to make in order to be here, surviving. How we manage the expectations to be what we're supposed to be against what we really are and what's possible with the tools that has been given to us. So I found a few ways that I wanted to explore this theme, and one of them was using my body as the first reference for everything. I started to take some pictures of myself in a way that I want to represent how we are moving and trying to fit in something that's not quite right for us. It's like, well, you can do anything from your life. You can eat anything you want. You're free to make your own decisions. But when we learn about the consequences and when you see what those lies are doing to us, we started to realize that we are actually living in a world that does not make sense. And those paintings are the moments that we only have ourselves to hold our hands, because you can be a diabetic, you can have any chronic illness, whatever, but in the end of the day, we are living and dying by ourselves. It's our own life, it's our own experience. That's why sometimes I have these duplicated figures in my painting, because it shows one version of yourself arguing sometimes with another part of yourself to try to find the best outcome for you. It's when you are the only one to hold your hand, you are doing, because when it comes to your health, your life, you are the one to be responsible for you. That's all we have, ourselves. So, diabetes in my art brings the connection back to us. It makes us to question our freedom of choice. Are we really free? I'm Regis Souto, I'm a visual artist living here in Toronto. I'm really happy that you came along and watched through the end. So if you want to connect, my socials are below. Anything related to paintings or just conversation, I'm here. Let's build a community together. Hope I see you in the next video.